Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at the third issue of Alex Nall's Town and Country. This is a series, I'm pretty sure Partners and Sons sent it to me in one of the grab bags I did with them, and I immediately fell in love with it. It has, the first issue had kind of rough cartooning, but there was just something about it where I really felt like this was going to be a comic worth contending with as it went on, especially if it were to carry on for a long time. And now by the third issue, I'm really, really sold on the series as something that I hope continues for 30 years or something like that. I think what Alex Nall is doing is very slowly building an entire world with a bunch of characters, and it feels a bit like what the Hernandez brothers have done with their respective stories in Love and Rockets, that there's a lot of like down-to-earth stories. I know their stuff gets a little more surreal. I would say Alex Nall is even more down to earth and less strange, but that you get this cast of characters whose lives you just get embedded in. And then the longer the series runs, the more all of those characters will mean to us. They'll be people that we live with. And so I really feel like that's what this series can be. And each issue's getting better. The cartooning's getting better in each issue. And I also think, I'm reading them issue by issue. I think if I were to go back once I've got, say, 10 of them or something and really consume it as a chunk, then I think it would unfold even more like who the characters are and all of these little nuances that I know Alex Nall is building into it that maybe I'm missing just on reading an issue at a time. Something else that I really enjoy that he does with each issue is you get this little copy of the Hometown Hero, which is a little like newsletter that, as far as I can tell, is meant to be something. It's like an artifact from inside the story. So this is things that people in this fictional town that Alex Nall is building, this is something that those characters produce through their church. And I really like that. It's an extra little bit. And a lot of times this would be stuck in the back as a back matter, but I like that this is stuffed in. It's not actually a page in the book. It feels more authentic that way. This feels just like some crappy thing that would get printed out at the church. So I think Alex Nall is making a lot of really, really smart decisions about that. In the first issue, there was a map that told me where everyone went. I kind of like that. I wish that would be in every issue, but again, I think if this were collected, then that one map would serve for everyone in the issue. But that's another one of those things that I could revisit and maybe get a better mental map of where all these people are in the town. I think there's a lot of kind of intersecting storylines that will play out over time that are really interesting. But right out the gate, I want to say, compared to like the first issue, the cartooning in this issue is off the chain better. Like this drawing here is really, really good cartooning. So I feel like Alex Nall is showing the trajectory of improvement as a cartoonist that I was kind of seeing by the end of the second issue, and that continues to improve. I think pages like this right here, this tchotchkes, are really, really nice, really sophisticated drawing. There starts to be in this issue, I don't know if this has always been the case with this book, or if this is something new, but it looks like there's more digital production going on in this book. If I remember correct, I didn't grab them, but I remember it feeling like a ink book, like an analog ink book. And this is starting to feel more digital. One of the things that I see that's suggesting the digital is there's like these textures that look kind of mapped in like a pencil tool to get some of the grays. Those are used pretty nicely. The other thing that I'm seeing is that there's finer lines, to almost too fine of lines in some cases, where it looks like the digital stuff has gotten so thin, like here on the checker pattern on his shirt. It's such tiny lines that it looks like someone, or there's a bunch of stuff back here, some characters in the background that look like someone drawing with like a number 2 pressure, number 2 with no pressure on or something like that on a tablet. It could look really nice, but unfortunately, because the thing is printed in halftones, all of those turn into like a little dot pattern, which when you have a background here, it just looks like faded in the fog. That's fine, but when it's on the shirt and stuff, it's just the line quality breaks down and it just doesn't look quite right. Something else I've noticed is that there's push towards realism in some of the drawing. It's almost like this character looks photo reference to me compared to the other ones. And I think Alex Nall is still, with this new tool and this new addition of these really kind of fine lines and textures, I think he's still trying to figure out how to balance these thick, juicy lines against the thin ones. And that's a really hard balance to get. I'm always, like, when I look at Stan Drake's art, I remember talking to Dave when working on Strange Death, like Stan Drake will put big, thick lines on the top of like a blonde girl's hair. And I think Alex Nall is doing what I would be tempted to do, which is like, well, the light's coming from here, so you'd have light here and shadow over there. And looking at like Stan Drake's work and stuff, that he doesn't always put it where you would expect it. And I think it's a design thing. So that's something I'm working on too, is placing the juicy marks where they're have an impact on the design rather than where they make the most realistic sense. And I kind of see that coming together here, but I also see like the front of the face just feels too heavy to the back. But this drawing here is like way more sophisticated than anything that I saw in the first few issues, and that's for most of the cartooning in here. So each one of these stories is like a little vignette that dives into one of the main characters that you cycle through. This one here goes back in time pretty much. This is a person reflecting on when they were 19 and they're kind of living a wild life, and you just get how this character developed through his life, how he grew up, and then the suggestion there is that this gardener character is the character that we've been following throughout the story, and then you see what I assume are some of his kind of stoner friends still later in life, but you can see that he's kind of grown up and become responsible. And you also start to see some of the other characters, like this character with the mustache is a very important character in the book as well. And then we switch over to another vignette focusing on another character. One thing that I really like on this page, first off, is that Alex Nall knows that this book is going to be stapled. So if you're going to lean into a double page spread like this, put it on the middle, and then you don't have any gutter loss. It's just a straight drawing all the way across. That's really nice. And then also, I think that was really smart because the trick on this page centers around this character multiple times kind of saying, yeah, man. And I think that's a really interesting formal strategy I haven't seen before that freezes a character in time. So while everything around this character is moving on, people growing up, all of this kind of stuff, he's just kind of always there, like stuck in the same spot. And no matter where he's at, his response to things are like, yeah, man. And I think having this smack in the middle like that as this consistent thing that persists, is almost like frozen in time as others keep moving. That was very essential that the page look like this, and so it's really smart to put it on the middle. It's just that kind of, I think, smart writing. I think Alex Nall is, definitely a writer at heart, and the cartooning is coming along to match the writing, and the pages and stuff like this are constructed around the emotional point that he's trying to land about the character, or just the character development point. That's why I'm so sold on this series, is that I really feel like this is a place I'm going to spend time in and people I'm going to get to know better, like the Sherman character here. With the switch, or what I think is a switch to digital, you do start to get some more interesting effects, some textural effects that I think are really, really fun, but I don't know that they fit the art exactly. I quite like here, there's like this, it basically looks like canvas that has had charcoal smeared on it, so it's just catching on the tooth, and then that got scanned and put in for texture. And here it really works. It provides like a nice gray, and there's a lot of distress and almost like weather going on in there to make it look like it's raining. In other places, like here on the car, or on the backboard of the bed, or here on the mountains, the texture doesn't work as much for me. I think it's just too consistent of a texture. It's too specific of a texture to be used so consistently throughout. But again, like this kind of idea of doing, it looks like something physical and then scanning it and combining it with the digital art. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of experimenting in here. And again, I'm not trying to be like critical and say it's bad. I'm just saying I actually kind of appreciate all of this experiments, even when it's like, okay, it really works here, but it doesn't work here, but it works here. I think it's really fun to watch an artist try those things out. It reminds me of early issues of Cerebus where Dave is trying different things out. It's like he tries ink wash on an issue, sees it in print, goes, nah, that's crap, and moves on. tries like a duotone paper and things like that. And to see an artist like hone in on what they're doing is really exciting. And to see them experiment and have successes and failures is really exciting. It actually makes me more invested in it. I wish that this is what all artists did, is that they didn't wait until they were good enough. You know, there's some artists that make their debut, and me and Sean will interview them, and it's like, how did you get so good? You know, it's like, well, they've been silently working on illustration projects and all this stuff till they got so good. I actually really like the artists like Alex Nall, who's good enough to tell a really good, engaging story, but has, you know, some things that still need to be worked on in the art. I love watching those people grow in public, and they'll go faster and they'll get better in the end because of that, because they're not waiting. So if there's any lesson that any artist could take away, it would be do this, do what Alex Nall is doing. Like, tell the stories that you want to tell, make the books that you want to make. Don't wait until you think you're good enough. You know, you're never good enough. You'll get good enough by doing it. So here's some more of that experimentation. This looks like an ink wash or something. Maybe these are digital brushes that he's using. I'm not sure, but it looks like physical ink wash material to me, scanned in. And but then this also, I don't know, is this like a black crayon that he's drawing with, or is it a digital tool? I don't know. And then I really quite like this effect here. This is something that we saw and noticed in the what is that, the Mobile Suit Gundam, I forget the artist's name, Yaz was doing, where it'd be like this black, and then he would put the ink wash and then kind of let it fade out and get this blur effect on the edge. This looks like the same effect to me, so I wonder if Alex Nall also saw those Mobile Gundam ones and was like, oh, I'm going to try that, or if this is a digital effect or whatever. But this is another one of those pages where, like, here it works pretty well. I really like the effect here. I think it gets cut off a little early. It would have been nice to fade here. But then in other places, like the consistency of the texture all throughout, I don't know that it works. But as he develops this vocabulary of textures, I think you'll start to see pages where it's like, oh, the canvas look is over here and the ink wash look is over here, and you can build up a rich vocabulary where you have a really textured world with this clean, slick cartooning in black and white. That could be a really powerful, like here I think it's really, really powerful, where it does look a little bit more specific to the scene and it doesn't seem to be the same approach as everything else. This is an interesting way, if you don't have color, to still be like a clean cartoonist who's getting a lot of like painterly variety and sense of place and texture in a piece. So it's something I'm excited about that he's doing, and I'm excited to see how it develops. This here is a pretty ongoing feature, this character Dawn, and you always have Dawn's critics, Dawn's epigram. So this is like this character Dawn who's been writing a journal, basically, and you're getting to know him better. So the Shelton character, Sherman character, and the Dawn character, and then there's a third character, this maid here who's with Sherman. Those are like the three that I've really latched onto that I remember. I'm sure there's ancillary characters that if I go back and read it all, I pick up on them as well. But these seem to be the main three. I quite like this bit in the back too, this bit of writing, the saintly stuff here, where you have this woman doing house cleaning, Sherman's wife or girlfriend, and she's just kind of thinking about like different denominations, you know, the Methodists versus the Lutherans, and what their different kind of takes on religion and life are, what the thing that makes them kind of a unique Christian denomination is. And just that kind of like really introspective, thoughtful writing, it really gives a sense of place and space. Like, this is a small town in the Rust Belt, and you really get a flavor of that and the type of people that live there, and I think that's all really great. And then to also have like some really intense philosophical ponderings and a look into these characters' inner lives is really nice. So yeah, obviously I'm just really stoked about this project. This book costs $8 and you get the book and that little pamphlet and stuff. I think this is a project that really, really deserves ongoing support, because it's been great writing from the beginning, and the visuals of the thing are coming along to match that. And I really just selfishly hope people go support this, because like I said, this is a book. I don't know what Alex Nall's plan. Maybe this is a 10-issue thing and it's done. there's an ending to the story. But to me, it really feels like a project that could be a life project for Alex Nall, that we could have mini collections of, and that we could all get familiar with these characters. But for that to happen, to make sure he can keep doing it, we need to support it. So just selfishly, I want to see this thing go on for 30 years. So, please throw some support its way. I think it's a great book. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us, there's 2 ways to do that. The first is through our Patreon. We have 2 different tiers that you can pledge to there. They get you early access to videos, and at the higher tier, you can participate in an ongoing webcomic experiment where you can help control what the character does, and also just get exclusive previews of the books and private art that Sean and I are working on. Any of the money that we make just goes back into helping us buy the books that we review, so we try and put that back into the community. If you want to support Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is to buy some of the books that Sean has put out with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of those now. House on Fire by Matt Battaglia is a just gorgeous book where Matt's kind of making an emotional response to the years of COVID and wrapping that into a sci-fi dystopian future that really the sci-fi dystopian's backgrounded, and you're focused on the emotional journey of 2 characters in a really beautiful way. And then that's enhanced by Matt's like really awesome, loose, kind of Paul Popish dry brush work. And then Sean and Matt have worked to get this second kind of orange spot color in there that's going to look really, really beautiful, and has allowed Matt to use his dry brush technique to add tone to the thing too. So with Sean's production technique, this is going to be a gorgeous book with a lot of heart. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.